The only grinder I care about is the grinder for my Anytime I go to shows, I know I'm the Debbie Downer whenever I'm invited to join a grinder and I respectfully decline. Now, this isn't to say that grinders are bad and you shouldn't play in them, no. If you enjoy that format, hey, more power to you. I wish you all the best and I hope you have many great memories in that format. This is just why I don't like them, so keep in mind it's my opinion and my opinion only. Take that for what it's worth. Now every time I walk by one of these tables, I look at it and the first thing I usually notice is a large spread, lots of terrain, lots of mechs. Okay, I'm sold so far. And when I start counting the number of players at the table, that's when I start to run into a snag where I go 9, 10, 12, well, wow, we got a lot of players at this table. Okay, if I assume 2 minutes or thereabouts per player to undertake whatever action it is that they're going to undertake for that turn, then let's imagine a median average of 10 players. That's 20 minutes, including me, to go all the way around the table. Just moves. This is assuming you have one game master. I don't see too many grinders with multiple game masters, but if you have, hey, tell me about it in the comments, because I want to know where that's at so I can go there and check it out, because I'd like to see it. But then you've got to double that time because you've got your shot declarations to go through and all of that fun stuff. So on average, with about 10 players at the table in a grinder format, you're probably looking at about 45-ish minutes, maybe 50 per turn, because you've got cleanup effects at the end, don't forget. You've got to do your heat, you've got to make sure any of that stuff gets taken care of, like marking your ammo, all of that fun stuff. And if you've got any new players at the table, they might need help. So you've got to budget in a few extra minutes. So like I say, if you wanted to call it 55, you might be pushing it maybe a little, but not too much. So my point is that each turn is going to take about an hour. What am I going to be doing for that hour? Let's ask ourselves that question first. And that is, I'm going to move my guy, I'm going to put my die behind him, and I'm going to sit there. And for probably about 53 of that 55 minutes, I'm just going to be sitting there. Now, if I was into that idea at the time, maybe that might be entertaining, but I tell you, most of the time, if I'm going to be an observer, I don't also need to be a player. I have much more freedom to roam around the table when I'm not also playing in that game, and it gives me a lot better of a perspective, especially when I'm filming. I would much prefer to just observe, because then I get to see all the cool bits and I get to lose track of time while I'm focusing on neat shots or nifty mechs that are painted up real nice and things like that. And so that's what it is. I really don't want to spend an hour per turn to do one thing really fast, because my brain is working really fast. I've plotted my move out, I guarantee you, about 5 seconds after I put down the die behind it. So by the time it's come around to me again, I've known what I was going to be doing for almost the whole time. So I end up kind of like, and that's when you get your phone out. And I don't really like to see games where players are getting their phones out. I like games that keep the players engaged thoroughly, or as thoroughly as they can throughout the experience, so that the players aren't interested in picking up their phones, if that makes any sense. Another problem I have with grinders is the audience that everybody keeps telling me they're targeted at. So let me ask you this question. Who are grinders for? Okay, did you say newbies? If you did, no one would fault you. That's the default answer, but let me throw this at you as an ancillary follow-up question. When you're trying to teach newbies classic Battletech, keep in mind, Alpha Strike's only up here for show right now. I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about classic, okay? You're trying to teach a newbie as a single game master when you've got, on average, about 10 players at the table. So you're going to have to spend a lot of time giving these players the individual attention that they're going to need to make sure that they know what they're doing and can make an educated decision about what they're doing, so that they have an enjoyable time at the end of the day, because really that's what you want, right? Okay, well that's going to take up your time, unless you happen to be lucky, you happen to have a second person working with you, which Out in the field, I had a cameraman and me, and that was it. So it was really just kind of a catch-as-catch-can sort of situation there, and I don't know what it's like for other people, but I can only speak for myself. So if I were to have, say, another person helping me run, as I did the one year when Carrie Jo Patton helped me, that was much easier. That ran much smoother for me. But that would allow you to have one game master giving a newbie or a set of newbies specialized attention while the other one kept the action moving and made sure that all of the folks that were up and ready to go were still engaged and, not looking at their phones or what have you. But that's just not a thing that you see, or at least not a thing that I've seen, okay? Let me amend that statement, because I don't want to say it's not a thing you see, because I haven't been everywhere. You might see it, but I just haven't been there yet. And I stress yet. But what I'm saying is that it's going to add time onto the game if you don't have this ancillary game master. If it's just one person trying to wrangle the bunch, it's going to take more than an hour at this point to come back to you, and I really just don't feel like that kind of environment is really the greatest environment to teach a quote-unquote new player. Think about it. You've got all these other people, they're standing around, the new player is sitting there going, oh, why don't I get this? I need to understand this. Oh God, everybody's waiting on me. And it's selection anxiety, you know that's going to happen. And there's complexity creep to have to deal with as well. So it's kind of like, in my opinion anyway, a high-stress environment. Now, Alpha Strike's another story, and I'll do another video on that if you want me to. So you let me know in the comments. I'm only talking about Classic. And see, the other issue that I have that ties right into that whole thing is that typically at these grinders, you're going to see modern units. And when I say modern, I'm talking about the Ill Clan stuff. So I'm not saying there's no reason to use this stuff. It should be used if you want to use it. You're the game master, it's your stuff. Do what you want to do, right? But when we're talking about an arena for training newbies, I feel like the advanced tech of anything beyond maybe Civil War era is too much. And you're going to be adding so much stuff in there that they might get something with multiple missile launchers and a plasma cannon, and you're just going to have to sit there and explain it to them every single time because you're the one who put it in there. So now it's your job. Otherwise, why would you do it? And so using anything other than maybe some more simplified units. And again, I could understand Clan Invasion era. Okay, yeah, you want to play with some of the iconic mechs, right? You want to bust out the Timberwolf. You want to bust out the Atlas at the same time. And that's all right. I could totally respect that. It's when I see the crazy Ill Clan era stuff that I think to myself, man, we're really chucking these people in deep end here, aren't we? Just, all right, kid, can you fly, Bobby? And I really think that my final issue on this topic is that grinders themselves, typically, if you've seen anything different, you know what to do, so go ahead and do that. But typically, grinders lack verve. What does that mean? That means there is nothing about this grinder that makes it inherently interesting other than it's just, well, here's some X. All right, go on out there. It's a giant Rochambeau shin kicking contest, and whoever falls over first is the loser. So get whacking. You know what I mean? Anytime anybody ever says to me, but Tuck, you created Legends. That's a grinder format, right? Well, yes, but I did something that I felt like was going to add a little bit extra to the format other than just, well, here's some mechs, go at it, I guess. And for lack of a better term, I would employ the video game idiom of let's skin these mechs to look like their famous counterparts. So instead of a generic rifleman, it would be Gray Noten's rifleman. Or instead of a generic Battlemaster, it would be Hans Davian's Battlemaster. So any player that walked up to the table would still be playing as themselves, which is important, but they would just be piloting that famous version of the mech. So I felt like that added a little extra verve to the entire thing. I thought, this is the best I got, might as well throw my hat into the ring, and if I'm going to criticize it, I might as well see if I can't do it better, right? So that's kind of where that came from. So I suppose at the end of the day, I don't absolutely abhor grinders. There are instances where I will play in them, and I've played in my own. So it's not like it's a foreign concept to me there either. I really just feel like they are about what kind of gameplay you're looking for at that event at the end of that day. Like, if you're looking for something that's, you don't want to sit down at one of those. But if that kind of action isn't really necessary for you, and you're looking more for the social aspect of, hey, let's have a seat and talk with everybody and know that I'm going to have time to talk because it's going to take me 45 minutes to get back to my next action, and that's all right with you, hey, if that's what you like, who's to stop you? It's a beer and pretzels game at heart, right? So if that's something you enjoy, great. Me personally, my brain is always going like this. I'm telling you, the moment I place that die, I'm thinking about what my next move is. I'm plotting 2 trajectories ahead while I'm waiting for everybody else to move. And then just for me, personally, for my brain, it's torture to wait for all that to come back around to me again. Because for me, I've known for 25 minutes or thereabouts where my next 2 moves are going to be, what I'm going to shoot this turn, who I'm likely going to shoot at, and what my numbers are most likely going to be by the time it gets to me. So my turn, when it's my time to fire, for example, will go like that because I've already got all this calculated, but that's a double-edged sword. That's both good and bad because now I've finished it really fast. That's nice. That just means I'm going to be waiting a lot longer in between then and the next time I get to do anything, and that's going to be a minute. You feel me? You see what I'm saying? The one thing I will give grinders before I leave is that it's the format where you're most likely to see those cinematic moments. So I mean a pilot just buries their hammer down and does an 8-hex charge, explodes in a blaze of glory, or you'll have a pilot whose mech has been shot to hell and they're doing the DFA action, they land flat on their back and it's all over but the crying. That's the format where you're most likely to see moments like that. So as an observer, they can be great fun, especially for me when I'm filming. So by the time these cool things actually happen, they happen at just the right time for me to capture them. So it's a lot different for me filming than it is actually playing. So there is also that. So if you've got the patience to sit through everyone else going through the motions, then you'll definitely have a lot of opportunity there to see moments like that, or maybe even perpetuate them yourself. So again, this isn't a takedown or a rebuke of the grinder format as a whole. This is just why it isn't for me. If you love it, great. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me why. And do us a big favor if you like what you've seen so far. Hit that subscribe bell down there and turn on all notifications so you can find out exactly where Battlebound's going to turn up next. And don't forget, folks, Battlebound has a Patreon now at patreon.com/battlebound. Sign up today to enjoy those benefits tomorrow. I'm Tuck Davian, and if you don't think the RFL 4D Rifleman is the best rifleman of the Succession War era, well then you're
That's on fact. I was sign stamp delivered. Queen Rat fucking entertainment out of this bitch. Like